Good evening, folks. Reloading Bench back with you once again, and we've got 3 boxes to talk about tonight. So let's save this one for a little bit later and focus on these two. This particular discussion is going to be about, in this case, NAS storage, and more specifically RAID, redundant array of inexpensive disks. But I wouldn't call this inexpensive, so I guess that's relative to your financial perspective. But it is RAID, and being a computer fan, I was a proponent of redundancy, N+1, N+2, N plus something, because when you only have N will fail. It will never, ever, ever not fail. So this was purchased, this Thecus N4100 was purchased in 2007, and better not tilt it. And it's a good thing back in 2007 I locked these open, because this does come with a lock, a key that I can no longer find. And if you did lock them, this would lock it in place where you couldn't pull this drive out. So luckily, back in 2007, I was smart enough to know that I would probably lose the key, so don't lock these closed. So the beauty of RAID, and multiple versions of RAID. I was a fan of RAID 5 because it was a trade-off of performance write hit, meaning you're going to take a degradation in writing because you have to stripe the parity bit across all 5 drives, but you could lose a drive. So in essence, of these 4 drives, you lost the equivalent of 25% of the capacity. So this being 2007, I think this case was about $500 at the time, and NAS storage for the home market was relatively new. And 3.5-inch Seagate 2 terabyte Barracuda drives. I'm a fan of Seagate, always have been. Were relatively expensive. I'm going to say these were probably in the $150 to $200 range. I think they're about $100 now. But this is spinning disk. And what this allowed me to do was attach this to our network, and the whole family could just dump files here. So we had, in essence, 6 terabytes. Formatted, something like 5.7. Just under 6 terabytes. Again, this is big. It's heavy because the number of drives, and it's a steel enclosure. And it's got levels of redundancy. So I thought, okay, I'm good. Okay, so fast forward 2012 years. I bought this in 2019. This is a Synology DS416 Slim. 4 drives. I can't remember what the 16. I think 16 was the max number of terabytes at the time. So I bought this to be a smaller version of this, because this, and there's no lock on these are also Seagate Barracuda 2 terabytes. So this is the equivalent, same spinning drive. So this gave me the equivalent of this in a much smaller form factor. You can carry this around. It would go gaming, bring it to somebody's house. This, it's portable, but it's heavy and bulky. So the idea was, 12 years later, did I get my money's worth and my functionality at the time? I would say yes, I did. So I dumped files on here, and then I decided to get this, and I copied what I wanted. I would say the important, taxes, family pictures, whatever, backups from laptops, iPads, you name it. Then went on to here. So this would be phase 2 of the important stuff. Well, a year after I had this, and I didn't run it constantly on, I would use my desktop, and then it was time to store data, I would dump it over this. Was that a smart thing to do? Not so bad. My desktop drives are mirrored, RAID 1 mirror set. So I had redundant levels of redundancy, so I wasn't worried about losing a drive. And that's the beauty, you know. But what I tinkered with on this one, and even though it's RAID, and RAID is universal standards, the implementation is proprietary because of the software that each one of these manufacturers put on their machines to access and format and do whatever. So, you know, Synology's RAID is not the same as Thecus, if I'm even saying that correctly. So this is RAID 5, and I decided to do RAID 6 on this. And the difference between RAID 5 and RAID 6 is RAID 6, you could lose up to 2 drives. So the formatted capacity, you know, is it better to have 2 mirror sets or 1 RAID 6? Half a dozen, 1/6 of another. You know, faster on the reads RAID, a mirror set would be faster on reads and writes. Excuse me, faster on the writes, slower on the reads, I believe. And maybe I have that backwards. I don't care. I'm old. Doesn't matter anymore. But RAID 5 faster on the reads than on the writes because of striping the parity across all of them, whereas the reads just pull all 5. So I decided to do RAID 6. And I formatted it with Synology's DS utilities. And everything went fine, and all was cool. And then one day I went to turn it on, and it wouldn't power up. Where's the power button? That's actually the front. It wouldn't power up. So luckily, I was within warranty. So they sent me out a new, and I was worried about, well, what about my drives, the data? Because if I got a new... So they told me the process of reinitializing this new backplane, because all the information is, you know, in the actual system, not on the drives per se. So they gave me the process for reinitializing a new DS16 and then putting my drives in and then seeing my data. Again, that was 5 years ago, and I was like, okay, that's cool. I got my data back. But then I got a little more paranoid, and for good reason, because although my drives are redundant across both systems, that's the only thing that's redundant. So if you look at, you know, enterprise class business solutions that have RAID servers for corporate America, it's redundant everything. And where I'm going with this is loud. This is relatively quiet, and I got a little paranoid about the drive slash unit failing again, you know, because I had a failure. So that's when I started looking into different drive solutions, different storage solutions, and started moving over to portable spinning drives, and then, as you've seen recently, portable SSD, larger footprint, like the 2 to 4 terabyte or 2 to 5 terabyte, depending on what kind of storage we're talking about. But the reason I'm making this video tonight is to highlight RAID NAS failure. So this failed on me. This is actually the second second enclosure for my original drives. So what good is having your data safe and secure on the drive if you can't access it? So fast forward, I decided after booting this up and cleaning it off and moving the data, I would do the same with this. Only this didn't power on. The power was dead. So now I have all my drives, but I have no power. So I can't get to the data that's perfectly fine on these perfectly fine spinning disks because this unit has a dead power supply. So I reached out to my friends at Thecus, didn't even know if they were in business still, and I submitted an email request saying, can I please buy, I have an old version of this, you know, 4100 and N4100 network attached storage. How can I purchase a power supply replacement? That's all I asked for. How can I purchase a power supply replacement? They came back at me and said, this unit is out of warranty. Yeah, no shit. Out of design support, out of everything. They never answered my question. They basically took an attitude of, how dare you talk to us about something that's so old and out of spec and out of design support and out of. So that takes me to where we are tonight. And this is the power supply from this unit. This is actually a pretty cool little design, you know, when you think about what it actually does. And they took, this is, I'll call it for the most part, an off-the-shelf kind of power supply. It's nothing, I wouldn't call it, you could say there's some proprietariness involved in this because of the types of connectors, which that we'll talk about shortly. But the design of this little unit is kind of cool. You know, I must say, for 2007, we're going on 20 years ago. You know, not quite toolless. Come on now. There we go. So essentially what this thing is just a backplane. There's the chassis, just a bunch of sheet metal. And all the brains are on this logic board with the memory. And I don't know what this is for, maybe extra memory. Version 1.0, 2007. And then there's my power, my two power leads. So I was thinking, after I yanked this power out, and after Thecus told me to pound sand and F off, what could I do to maybe find a replacement, a power replacement? And that's what takes us to our box tonight. So I'm looking all over the interweb, and this particular model number by Enhance Electronics, NP2320, is anywhere from $50 to $300, but you couldn't find it in stock anywhere. Everybody who had those listings online, it was out of stock. Oh, I hate peanuts. Oh, I'm not a fan of peanuts. They're gonna get everywhere. Yeah, look at that. You just motherfucker. Ah, look at that. Can't get a break there. All right, so we have peanuts, and we have a power supply. However, it is not the exact power supply. So luckily, and I looked for this as well, this was on one of the auction sites, Fleabay, and I always look for stuff that can be returned, because sometimes the picture can be deceiving in terms of what all is included or not. And as you can see, you know, the footprint looks identical-ish. You know, the cage is a little bit different. The screw holes look to be the same. The part numbers are similar. ENP2320. This is ENP2322B. So I could not find this exact part. And I'm hoping that this particular part has what I need. And it has a lot of extra of what I don't need in terms of extra power leads. But the two power leads that I do need are this one and this one. So, me wonders if I can obviously plug, you know, it looks 2 yellows, 2 blacks. It's quite dusty, so I think I'll probably clean it. 2 yellows, 2 blacks. And then if you look at this power lead, you know, are they all the same? They look similar, but I'm seeing some stuff here that I'm not quite seeing. It looks like this has all of them connected. This has all but one. So I don't know if this will work. I do not know. But there's only one way to find out. And that is by installing it. So that is what I will attempt to do. I will install this. First I'm going to clean it because it looks like it's a little janky dusty. I will install this and connect this power, and we're going to find out if this will work for us. I do not know, but we'll give it a try. So back later. So we're getting near the moment of truth. The new power came with a bracket that was on there, so I took that off. There's my bad power with the extended fan cover. Everything is back in, connected, new power. So we're going to power this up, or at least try to power it up. Let me get this out of the way without the drives in and see if we smoke something or blow something up. Oh, that's a good sign. Blue light. We have fan working. Let me leave this on for a minute. I probably should have shown you it not working, but trust me, it didn't work, which is why I spent the money on a replacement power supply. And it's going through its check. All right, so let's try this. And see if it will give me... Actually, you know what? I am going to probably run this connected to my computer, because I want to be able to IP in and turn it down gracefully. So that's what we will do. So we saw that we have power, we saw that we have fans, and nothing exploded or fried. So I will connect this to the network and finish with an update. I am happy to report that the power supply replacement did work. I'm not sure what that white power lead is to, or what it does, or how necessary it is in terms of its functionality, but I stuffed the replacement in, as you potentially saw, depending on how much of the video you watch. And that being said, I didn't want to leave it too powered on, because I did not want the firmware to recognize no drives and then go into a RAID rebuild state. So that's why I went back in the house and plugged it in. Made sure I had good network cable. Power obviously was good in terms of the power supply. So I was able to turn it on. I watched it go through its cycle, scanning the drives, the lights, all that good stuff. I was able to ping it on its IP address. I was able to IP in to the console, and the last time it was on was December 17, 2018, 6 years ago. Just under 6 years, 5 years, 11 months, and a few days. So, yeah, it's a long time. So I don't know what happened to the power because, you know, I didn't use that thing on and off to any extent. I'm wondering, and I left it unplugged. I'm wondering if, you know, with all the brownouts and surges and everything, even though I have surge protectors, something might have zapped the power supply and killed this. So it's worth picking up another one of these because that's my only level of redundancy on that particular RAID array. You know, I have a high degree of confidence in the firmware and the RAID capabilities, but again, single drive supply, single power supply, so that's a single point of failure, and that's a bummer. So, you know, when you have a device that has proprietary software, the RAID is not, well, I'm not going to say not proprietary because you don't know each vendor's implementation. Be willing to guess you can't take 4 drives out of vendor A's chassis and put it in vendor B's chassis and have it all be visible. Something tells me there's some software magic, firmware magic, intelligence on the back plane and such, which kind of brings me to my next evolution of storage. And I think it's going to be something like this. Not necessarily this. This is a Sabrent 5-bay USB-C docking station for, and it has built-in RAID. So I don't know that I want another proprietary RAID solution because this has, again, its own proprietary power. So I'm thinking of something like this, and I could do the same thing here, but I don't need 5 bays for 5 drives, especially the price difference. It's double almost. So for 90 bucks, this is a 2.5 inch drive inch solution that would just be JBOD, just a bunch of disks. And I'm thinking that I would use, I would do one spinning disk, like a Seagate 4 terabyte Barracuda, which is about 100 bucks. A Crucial 4 terabyte SSD, which is about 200 bucks. And that would be my manual mirror set, meaning I would copy or I would write to one disk and then use a utility like RoboCopy or TerraCopy and keep the drives in sync. And I would have 2 mirror sets. And the reason I say this particular path is because by having 2 non-mirrored mirror sets, meaning a manual mirror set, I can pull any one of these 4 drives out at any time and put it into another dock or USB reader and read that drive and access that data. Whereas the problem I had is all my data belong to whomever, because Thecus was very quick to say, oh, we have data recovery services, and they listed the prices, which were astronomical. For gigabytes, forget about terabytes. You got an 8 terabyte array with, you know, 5+ five and a half terabytes of data or potential data. And that would just be ridiculously expensive. So I think I'm going to move to a less proprietary solution that is an N+2, meaning I have my hard drive, and then N+1, N+2, and each drive technology is going to be different. Spinning disk mirror by an SSD, or vice versa. Same difference. And 2 sets of those 2 different mirror. So we've got a manual mirror set with 2 different types of drive technology. Because again, it's not if technology fails, it's when technology fails. And technology will always fail. The question is when. And it's usually when you need it most. So I think that's going to be the next path. Picking this up for 90 bucks, 100 bucks for the 4 terabyte Seagate 2.5 inch spinning disk, 2 bills for the Crucial. So we're looking at like a 4 with tax, maybe 450-ish. I think this is a little more than 2 220. We'll call it $500 for a mirrored 4 terabyte 2 drive technology, spinning disk and SSD, in a very small footprint with standard drives, standard backplane, and should the power fail in this particular unit, all I need to do is find any 2.5-inch dock, USB dock, and I'd be able to read those drives. Whereas with this, when my RAID 5 failed, I have 4 2 terabyte 3.5-inch drives that are unreadable. There's nothing wrong with the striped and parity data. I just can't access it because the power failed. So I don't know if my power replacement is a viable long-term replacement or if it just powered up and everything seems fine, and I powered it down before I smelled any smoke. But we'll see how that goes. And that's what I think I'm going to do for my move forward with a mix of PC, portable spinning, portable SSD, and then drive, a less portable solution, but standard SATA drive connection for any external USB 3.x docking solution, because I found that the transfer speeds between the PC on USB 3.x and USB-C are phenomenal compared to how slow the NAS device from 2007, 20-year-old technology will be in terms of backing up that data. But at least now I can access the data. So future, past, 2007, 2025. Take care, folks.